Welcome to a SimCenter AimSim Student Edition tutorial covering the basics of utilizing global parameters within a model. A global parameter is one that can be established and referred back to with a variable name that can be applied within the model. Global parameters are great when a parameter value needs to be changed frequently or if being used for multiple components. The model where global parameters will be created for in this video is that of a mass resting on a spring. Global parameters are created within their own menu, and to access it, the model needs to be sketched and moved to any of the next three modes. The menu can be opened under the Configure drop-down menu at the top, the Global Parameters button that is present in Parameter and Simulation mode, or by pressing Ctrl-G. To create a new global parameter, first right-click within the window, and under the New option, there are four choices for parameters that we can go over. Starting with real parameters, being those whose values are used for parameters corresponding to properties within a component, which can also be created by pressing Ctrl-R. A line will then appear in the window to be edited, starting with the name, which will be what the parameter is referred to in the model, being short and concise, like when creating a parameter for the mass in a component, make it M. The title box is available to describe what the parameter represents in full. The value is the actual numerical value of the parameter, and the unit needs to be entered in manually, but is simply for reference within the window and will not affect the calculations of the simulation. Once complete, the parameter can be used within the model after pressing OK, which will close the window, or by pressing Apply, which will keep the window open for reference. When typing in the title of the parameter, as if it were a value, a box will appear suggesting the title. Once complete, the typed in value will be black within the parameter window if acceptable. If the global parameter value is not acceptable, like if there is a typo, the text will appear as red and an error message will be shown. The next type of global parameter is an integer, which can be created when right-clicking or when pressing Ctrl-I. The integer's parameters are used for referring to index numbers and other quantitative parameters referring to a number of entities where a partial number would not make sense. An integer parameter has the same needed name, title, and value, but for this case, the value can only be a whole number. If a decimal is included, the number will be rounded down to the closest whole number. Integer parameters have no unit needed and can be added to a component's real parameters. For the mass component to rest completely vertically on the spring, an inclination angle of -90 is needed. The integer parameter can be made to this value and entered into the mass component as an angle. A text parameter is next and can be created with the same methods as before, but with the command Ctrl-T. Text global parameters are used to refer to saved lookup tables used by components or expressions, and cannot be entered into a component in the place of a real parameter. The needed information is the same as an integer parameter having no unit. The time response equation for the spring and mass system can be entered as a text parameter. This new expression can then be entered into a function block with time as the input to mimic the behavior of the model itself. The final global parameter category is an enumeration parameter, which is applied to the parameters of a component that are available for selection from a drop-down menu. Once selected from right-clicking and under New, or when entering Ctrl-E, a window will appear asking for an enumeration from a component to be dragged and dropped. The end-stop type of the mass is an acceptable parameter for this window. When dragged and dropped, the available options are listed with a respective value. After selecting OK, the name and title can be changed like the others. But for the value, when double-clicking, the available options for the parameter will appear. After completion, press OK and double-click on the end-stop type parameter, where, rather than selecting from the drop-down menu, one can just enter the name for the new global parameter. An alternative for creating global parameters is to drag the parameter from within the component into the global parameters window, creating a new one with a generated name, title, value, and unit if a real parameter. Also, the minimum, default, and maximum values for that parameter will be present. The parameter value within the component will also be automatically changed to this new name. If dragging an enumerated component, the same thing will happen and can often be easier than the traditional way of forming one. And after running one simulation with the global parameters in place, one can see that the model behaves the same as if these values were entered in numerically. And with this concludes the demonstration of how to use global parameters. Thank you.